Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching Channels Television celebrating 21 years of professional broadcasting. This is the news at 10.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Speaking of those pictures, let's take a look at some of the ones that you sent into our portal. Our portal will begin with this one. It's from Kubwa area in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. We see the picture of two vehicles involved in an accident. Eyewitness report advises motorists to adhere to traffic regulations. Our next photo shows refuse dumped indiscriminately along Agbani Road in Enugu State Capital. Our Eyewitness reporter wants residents to desist from such acts. This photo shows the impact of erosion on some portions of this road in Amakohia area in Owerri, the Imo State capital. Our Eyewitness reporter wants the government to fix it. We're still in the southeast. A picture taken along the Onitsha-Enugu highway. We see vehicles moving slowly due to the poor condition of the road. Our journey ends in Delta State on the Abraka-Warri Road. We see a young man hanging quite dangerously to this moving bus. It also shows three women sitting in the rear section. Eyewitness reporter calls on relevant authorities to stop this rising trend.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
At least 5 suspects have been arrested by the police in Kwara State after some gunmen allegedly killed 5 farmers in Saragi local government area. Confirming the incidents, the police public relations officer in the state, Mr. Ajayi Okosomi, dismissed allegations of fresh communal clashes. He noted in recent times residents of Shire and neighboring communities have been residing in peace. In addition, the PPRO gave an assurance that investigations are ongoing to apprehend the culprits.
Morning, there was an information received by the police that 5 men, 3 men and 2 young men were murdered in their farm while harvesting melon in Saraji, and it was suspected to be. It was revealed that the crime was perpetrated by some herdsmen. We are investigating. The police got there, recovered the dead bodies, and they are presently at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, where autopsy will be performed on them, and we are also not relenting. We are looking at other options to see what happened and why that is that happened.
Meanwhile, a gun battle between the Nigerian Army and the Nigeria Police occurred today in Geidam town, the headquarters of Geidam local government area in Yobe State, northeast Nigeria. Residents say sporadic shooting and a prolonged gun battle was recorded between the security forces, which caused some chaos in the town. A spokesperson of the 27th Task Force Brigade, Lieutenant George Okupe, and the police public relations officer, Samaila Solomon, say the face-off was caused by some misunderstanding between both parties. However, the officers say the situation is now under control. Geidam is 184 kilometers away from Damaturu, the state capital. And here's Linda with more news from Abuja. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Amarachi. Glad to have you and welcome to Abuja, the nation's capital. The Federal Executive Council today approved what it describes as a multilateral competent agreement to improve the government's implementation of tax regulations to prevent cases of evasion by multinationals. Briefing State House correspondents after the council meeting, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, explained the approval is consistent with the federal government's macroeconomic policy. Our State House correspondent, Chukwuma Onekusi, reports.
The fall in oil price has dealt a devastating blow to the economy. thereby forcing the federal government to diversify. One area the federal government is looking at is tax revenue. The new tax approval by the Buhari administration will make it difficult for multinational companies in the country to evade tax.
What it does is to allow government to see really how much taxable revenues it has access to, especially from companies and all of that. And it's transparency and accountability on the private side of the economy, really.
Nigeria also boasts of big seas, but the country has to move with the times by building new ports, which it says will berth bigger vessels in line with the latest developments in the world.
It is a port that was long overdue. Our ports are, in terms of technology, behind the maritime transport industry. There are bigger vessels now being built across the world, and they require larger depths and draft in order to berth.
The Badagry Seaport, to be completed in 5 years, was said to have been started by the past administration and was abandoned midway. But this administration says it is a viable infrastructure.
In this period when we are looking for foreign exchange, it's going to bring a total of $2.58 billion into the system. And the federal government or the Lagos State government would not contribute financially, other than, I think, the Lagos State government gave them land.
It shows that despite all the challenges we are facing, Nigeria is still a very preferred investment destination. It also showcases that this government is very focused on infrastructural development.
The federal government believes that Nigeria will be at the risk of becoming uncompetitive if the Badagry Seaport is not built and on time too. Chukwuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
The president-elect of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Abubakar Mahmood, has advised the federal government to step up efforts to resolve issues of insecurity of lives and property in the country. Mr. Mahmood, who gave the advice at a news briefing in Abuja, expressed concern about rising cases of impunity and disobedience to court orders. He notes that these actions are capable of undermining the nation's democracy and the rule of law.
Security of lives and property has become a permanent topic on the front burner of our national discourse. Security of life and government is constitutionally the fundamental objective of governance. The new faces of crime like kidnapping, terrorism, insurgency, cybercrime, and incessant clashes between various members of various communities in our country in recent times have led to monumental loss of lives and properties of Nigerians. The need to manage conflict, including prevention, should remain at the center of the attention of this administration. While we commend the efforts of the federal government in tackling the security challenges that are facing us in Nigeria, we urge the government to spare no efforts in ensuring peace, security, law and order across the country. We must again reiterate that the NBA will continue to support security measures taken by the federal government, subject however to security agencies abiding by the rules of engagement and utmost respect for fundamental human rights of all citizens living in those conflict areas.
And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Linda. Back in Lagos, repentant members of the terrorist group Boko Haram now have a chance to begin normal life again, as the federal government has begun the process of reintegrating them into society. The National Security Council had mandated the Chief of Defense Staff, General Abayomi Olonishakin, to receive the repentant terrorists with a view to rehabilitating them.
As part of ongoing efforts by the federal government in the rebuilding of the northeast region of Nigeria, following the terrorist attack that had caused devastating damage and subsequent surrendering of some of the terrorists, the National Security Council mandated the Chief of Defense Staff to receive repentant terrorists with a view to reintegrate them back to society.
We have succeeded in degrading them. And now another important phase of the ongoing operations is the humanitarian operations, which involves the de-radicalization and rehabilitation of course, eventually reintegration program.
To make the camp conducive for the repentant terrorists, the National Emergency Management Agency donated several items ranging from food to bedding and other necessities required to cater for them, as well as resource persons and camp officials.
What we are doing as an agency is to support the initiative by providing food and non-food items on a regular basis for the sustenance of this program.
A series of programs have been earmarked for the process, which will include different vocations and skills acquisition.
We have engaged a non-governmental organization, that is the Center for Development and Democracy, to help us handle the strategic communication aspect of this operation.
The federal government of Nigeria, the decision of Mr. President to follow the international best practices, the trend whereby victims of armed conflict are protected and taken care of.
With the opening of the camp for repentant terrorists towards rehabilitation, de-radicalization and reintegration, there is a need for more awareness to accommodate the repentant combatants after the exercise and shun stigmatization for the peace process to be achieved.
Still ahead of the news at 10, the naira strengthens against the dollar as the central bank targets 245 billion naira through Treasury bills auction. We'll have more in business news.